So the next type of factoring that we're going to look at is called simple trinomial factoring. We call it that because trinomial, and it's simple. Trinomial because there are three terms. So you see all these examples we're going to do have three terms, 1, 2, 3. And they'll have a squared and a term that doesn't have a square and then a term that doesn't even have an x. And they're called simple trinomial. You'll see when we do the next lesson of a complex trinomial, because the coefficient, the number in front of your x squared, is a 1, i.e. there is no number written there. In which case it's very simple to factor. Well, remember, we want to factor and change it into two brackets multiplied together. Now we expanded a whole bunch using FOIL or first outside, inside, last. And what would happen is you would expand and then you would put the middle terms together. And this has already happened. And now what I want to do is go back to when you had two brackets multiplied together. So this method that we're going to use, I like to call the man method. Okay, so the first step is we know we want to go to two brackets, so we write the brackets just empty. And then we say, okay, well, I know I'm multiplying these brackets to get this one, and the first term I need to get is an x squared. So that's very easy. I know that these two have to be x. The tricky part is to figure out which numbers would go in here so that when I multiplied it out 4 times, I would end up with this. Now we know that the last two numbers multiplying together will give us this -10. So the man comes in, I'm going to write M-A-N, and those are numbers. This stands for multiplication, this stands for addition, and this stands for the number. So that means multiplication, meaning the numbers that I have chosen here for the n is what I want, are going to multiply to that number, -10. Always this number, because in the end that's what those two multiply to. The numbers also have to add to this number, -3. So the two numbers that fit in this bracket multiply to -10 and add to -3. So when you go looking for your numbers, it's really important that you remember that you're really looking at the numbers that multiply. The adding numbers are just the ones that we check to see if they will work. Because there are infinitely many things that can add to -3. We'd go on and on, -4 plus 1, -5 plus 2, it goes on and on. But there are only so many things that multiply to 10. There's only a few, 1 in 10, 2 in 5. So when I go to find my numbers, the first thing I have to consider is the signs of the numbers. So if it multiplies to a -10, I already know that the signs have to be a positive and a negative. They can't be the same sign, so I'm going to put that down, plus, negative. So our two numbers that we're looking for have to multiply to a -10, so a positive and negative, and then I just think about all the numbers that would multiply to 10. And there's only 1 in 10, 2 in 5. Those are it. So it has to be these or else there is no factor. So it's not 1 in 10, but 2 in 5, positive and negative, adding to -3, -5 plus 2. There I go. So I have my numbers, and all I have to do now is put the numbers, and it doesn't matter which order, in the brackets, and we're all finished. Okay, let's try the next one. No, it's y's. That doesn't make any difference at all. But again, it's three terms. There's a squared, and one with a no square, and a number by itself. And the square has no coefficient. Oh, well, there's a 1 there, but there's none written. So I know, okay, I can use this method, the simple trinomial, the man method, and I'm going to know that the first two are going to be y's because they multiply to y squared. I'm going to write my man over here, multiply, add, and my numbers. Multiply, always multiply to the last number, a positive 12, and add to the middle number, which is -7. Now I got to find the numbers, and I start with the signs. Now because it multiplies, it's all about the multiplication number, to a positive, it could be 2 positives. But it also could be 2 negatives. So I have to make that decision. That's where the adding number comes in. I'm like, oh, 2 positives will never add to a negative. So see, it's -7. It has to be 2 negatives. So now I know for sure it's 2 negatives. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look and say, okay, what numbers multiply to 12? Well, 1 and 12, that's not going to work. 2 and 6, okay, both negative, close, but no. Is there anything else? Oh yeah, 3 times 4 would be 12. Oh, and -3 plus -4. Oh, there they are, hooray! Once you get your numbers, you're happy because all you have to do is sub those numbers in and you're finished. Okay, now the third one. Now I'm excited because I know how to do man method. I'm like ready to go. And then I say, oh my goodness, there's a 2 in front. But I don't know if you remember on our last video, one thing we should always look for, and I didn't really do it in the first 2 because I was just focusing on the man method. But now that we're here, see that 2 there? That's not man method. This man method isn't going to work. But we always have to look for our common factor. Always first, because that can make things way easier. And in this case, we definitely do have a common factor. There are 3 terms. All will divide by 2. So my first step is just to divide by 2. X squared minus x minus 6. Now, once I've divided by 2, that 2 stays there. It's a multiple. It's already factored. But we can factor this further, because now this is just like the 2 at the top. It's a simple trinomial to factor, and we can use the man method. So we just ignore the 2. We leave it there, but we ignore it. And we say we want to look for numbers that multiply to -6 and add to -1. So again, this is the main number. It multiplies to a negative. That's going to be a positive and a negative. It adds to a -1. Okay, so now we're looking for numbers multiplying to 6, 1 and 6, no, 2 and 3. 2 and 3, positive and negative. That would work if I made the 3 negative and the 2, that works. So now I'm just going to, I forgot to do this part, but I can do it now, where I know those are both x's, and I can put my 2 numbers in, +2 and -3. Now remember, always look for the common factor before you try to do another type of factoring.